Okay, welcome back to our deep dive into A Strange Fruit. And we just left off talking about that really impactful concept, the colonizer within, that voice that can hold us back. So how do we even start taking that apart, those internalized systems?
Well, it's definitely a journey, that's for sure. Not some quick fix. And the author, they make a point of saying that decolonizing the self, it's not about blame.
Right, right.
It's about recognizing like the patterns, the thoughts, the behaviors that you've kind of inherited, and then, choosing to break free.
So where do we even begin with that? I mean, it just feels like such a huge undertaking.
Well, the author, they bring up this idea called theopoetic excavation.
Wow.
I know it sounds kind of complicated,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's basically about like digging deep, into your own history, your own beliefs, like an archaeological dig for your soul.
I love that.
Mm.
So, I mean, if we're doing this excavation, how do we do it? Is it like sitting and thinking really hard, or are there actual things you can do?
Well, it can be a lot of things. The book mentions like journaling, exploring your thoughts and feelings, but without like judging yourself. And then there's meditation that can help you become more aware of those voices in your head, and those patterns. And of course, there's therapy that can, it can give you a safe place to deal with those deeper levels of trauma and all that conditioning.
So it's like a multi-pronged approach, right?
Yeah.
Using different tools to kind of get at those hidden parts of ourselves.
Exactly. And the author points out that this digging can be, well, it can be uncomfortable.
Right.
You might uncover things like pain, anger, maybe grief, things that you've kind of pushed down for years. So it's about being okay with those emotions, letting yourself feel them.
Yeah, I get that. It's like you can't heal something if you don't even acknowledge it's there, right?
Right.
But it takes guts to face those deeper wounds,
Yeah.
especially, when they're tied up with something as big as religion.
Absolutely. And the author reminds us that, we're not alone in this. Community support, that's huge. It's about finding those people who get it, who understand what you're going through.
Yeah.
And can give you that encouragement. So it's about finding those spaces where you can just be yourself, be vulnerable, and not worry about being judged.
So building a support system that tells you it's okay to question, it's cool to heal, it's okay to, figure out your own relationship with spirituality.
Exactly. And as you start to peel back those layers, you can begin to challenge those stories you've internalized. For example, the author, they talk about this belief that whiteness is it's pure, it's good, while blackness is negative, inferior.
Wow, it's amazing how those messages, they get in there, like in your subconscious, even when you're young.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it makes sense that we struggle with this colonizer within idea when those messages are just, everywhere.
Yeah, it's all around us. And that's why the author says, seek out different narratives. Find stories that celebrate the beauty and strength of blackness, of other marginalized identities,
Yeah.
It's about rewriting the story.
Yeah, both inside and out.
Right.
So conscious exposure, it's like you have to go out and find those stories that counter the dominant narrative, the one we've all been kind of, fed our whole lives.
Yeah, exactly. It's about diversifying everything, your sources of information, your culture, even your friends, and it can be daunting at first, especially if you've only ever known that dominant narrative.
It's like learning a whole new language, training your mind to see the world in a different way. But it's got to be liberating too.
Oh, yeah.
To finally break free.
It is. And, the author's initiative, Public Space, it's a good example of how we can actually build communities that support this kind of deconstruction and reconstruction.
Okay.
It's about creating those places where those different narratives can exist, where people can connect and heal outside of those traditional, potentially harmful structures.
Yeah, so it's creating a counterculture almost.
Yeah.
Where people can safely explore their spirituality without all the judgment and dogma.
Exactly. It's about, that sense of belonging, having a shared purpose. And that can be really powerful, especially for folks who have been hurt or marginalized by, traditional religious institutions.
And the book talks about healing outside of religion entirely. Right.
Yeah.
It's not just about finding a new church or a different spiritual practice. It's something deeper.
It is. The author, they emphasize that it's not about like rejecting spirituality altogether. It's about finding what's true for you, what resonates with you. And that could be, different spiritual traditions, connecting with nature, or even just cultivating a sense of awe and wonder in your everyday life.
So it's about taking back your spiritual autonomy.
Yeah.
Defining your relationship with what's sacred on your own terms.
Exactly. And that, it goes hand in hand with healing from religious trauma.
Right.
Because so much of that trauma comes from being told what to believe, how to practice. It's like having your spiritual autonomy taken away.
So it's about moving away from that fear and obedience to a place of empowerment and authenticity.
Yes. And the author brings up this really cool idea, theopoetic resistance. It's basically using your creativity to heal and to liberate yourself.
I love that.
Yeah.
So it's like channeling that pain, channeling that struggle into something beautiful, something that has meaning. So how does that work?
It can be a lot of things, writing, painting, dancing, singing. It's any creative expression that lets you process your emotions, explore what you believe, and connect with your true self,
So it's reclaiming your voice, right?
Yeah.
Telling your story, but on your terms.
Exactly. And the author, they share some amazing examples in the book, like poems, prayers, art. It all shows their own journey, So it's not just theory, it's something real, something you can feel and experience.
Yeah. It's really inspiring to think about art as a tool for decolonization, for taking back our stories, our voices. But I'm curious, how does all this personal work, how does it connect to the bigger systems of oppression? Does it talk about that?
It does. The author, they acknowledge that it's a complex issue, a lot of layers to it, but they do offer some things we can do to dismantle those systems as a society. And it starts with education.
Yeah.
Understanding the history of colonialism and how it still affects us today.
So not just knowing what happened in the past, but seeing how it's still playing out.
Exactly. And it's about learning about other cultures, other perspectives, challenging your own biases, and being willing to listen to people who have been marginalized, learning from them. It's about expanding your worldview, going beyond those narrow colonial narratives.
Like we have to tear up that old map we were given and draw a new one, a map that's more inclusive,
Yeah.
One that shows the world's complexities.
That's a great way to put it. And along with education, the author also stresses how important allyship is. Those of us who benefit from systems of privilege, we need to use our voices to lift up those who are marginalized. It's about realizing that just being not racist isn't enough. We need to be anti-racist.
So it's about action, right? Not just changing how you think, but actually doing something about it.
Yeah. And that means being okay with being uncomfortable, challenging the way things are, and standing with those who are fighting for justice. It's about showing up consistently in what you say and what you do.
So we all have a responsibility, in dismantling these systems.
Yeah.
It's not just the burden of those who are most affected by them.
Right, exactly. And, along with allyship, the author talks about economic justice. We need to address those inequalities that keep people stuck.
Yep.
Stuck in poverty, disadvantaged. It's not just about changing attitudes, it's about changing people's material conditions.
Because those systems, they're often built on those inequalities, right?
Exactly. And that means supporting policies that create economic equality, investing in marginalized communities, and challenging those systems that just keep giving wealth and power to the same few people, It's about creating a world that's fair for everyone, not just those who have always benefited.
I mean, it sounds like a huge task, but the author seems to think that change is actually possible.
Yeah, they do. They leave you with this feeling that even though the challenges are big, if we work together, we can make a difference. But it's important to be, to be kind to yourself, patient. We're not going to undo all this in a day.
Right. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
And it's okay to mess up, as long as we keep going.
Exactly. And remember, you don't have to do it alone. Reach out to your community.
Yeah.
Connect with people who think like you and find those support systems, That's all part of this journey.
Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into a strange fruit. And it's been really, really something, going through all these insights about race and religion and the lasting impact of slavery. But I'm excited for this last part, the author's vision for the future, a future that goes beyond all of that.
Yeah, it's not about just getting rid of spirituality. It's about taking it back.
Okay.
The author, they talk about theopoetics of liberation, where we can find those spiritual connections, that nourishment, but in a way that's real and empowering.
So yeah, so it's about, spirituality based on freedom, not oppression. But what does that actually look like, in real life?
Well, there's a few key things.
Yeah.
First, it's got to start with taking apart those harmful narratives that we've internalized. Like, remember the colonizer within. We got to dismantle those voices, the self-doubt, the shame.
So it's like we got to unlearn those messages telling us we're not good enough, not worthy.
Yeah,
And I guess that unlearning, that's something that never really stops,
right.
even when we're rebuilding, a healthier sense of self.
Exactly. And that takes us to the second part, rebuilding your beliefs and practices in a way that fits with who you really are.
Okay.
So maybe that means exploring, different spiritual traditions, or reconnecting with your heritage, or even just making your own blend of beliefs and practices.
So you become like a spiritual trailblazer, right?
Yeah.
You make your own path instead of following someone else's. And wouldn't that create a more diverse spiritual landscape,
Yeah.
overall?
Oh, absolutely. It's about recognizing that, there's not just one right way. Everyone gets to define what's sacred to them.
Right. But it's not just a solo journey, right? The author also talks about community, healing together.
That's so important. The book really stresses how powerful community can be in this liberation process. Creating those spaces where you can share, you can feel seen and heard, and support each other.
And that's where things like public space come in.
Right. Yeah.
Building those alternative communities where you can belong, connect, outside of all those structures that can be harmful.
Exactly. And those communities, they can do a lot to push for social justice, to dismantle those bigger systems of oppression. When people feel empowered, connected, they're more likely to speak up against injustice, to
Right.
work for a world that's fairer for everyone.
So it's like this awesome cycle, right? You heal as an individual, then that leads to action as a group,
Mm-hmm.
and then that creates an even better environment for more personal growth.
It's like a ripple effect, leads to real change inside and out. But the author reminds us that it's always going on. It's not like you reach some perfect state and you're done. It's about always questioning, always growing, always evolving.
It's like a lifelong journey,
Yeah.
Unlearning, relearning, letting go of those old stories and opening yourself up to new possibilities. And that's what makes it so cool. We're not just like sitting back and accepting things. We're shaping our own paths and being part of a bigger movement, a movement for change.
Exactly. It's about using our creativity, our resilience to make a world that's just and compassionate.
I got to say, I'm feeling pretty inspired after all this.
Me too.
This book has given me so much to think about.
It's a call to action, to look at your own beliefs, to challenge the way things are, and to actually be a part of creating a better world. And it all starts with, looking inward, that decolonization process.
It reminds us that we all have a part to play in making a better future. And I really love that the author ends on such a hopeful note.
Oh, yeah.
They say, "Go forth as stranger and kin to the histories you carry. May you hold your pain as the earth holds seeds. May you cultivate a garden of truth, unbound by the walls of empire. May your spirit be free."
Powerful.
Beautiful, right? So to all our listeners out there, check out A Strange Fruit. Embark on your own theopoetic journey. You never know what you might find.
And remember, you don't have to do it alone. There are communities out there, resources, people who get it.
Thanks for being with us on this deep dive. We'll be back next week with another exploration. Until then, keep diving deep, keep questioning, and keep growing those gardens of truth.